I'm going to make a little hole here, just with my finger, just there. And we're going to see what happens, where that bit of clay, where the hole is, where it moves to and how it changes. Let's watch its progress. So where do you think it's going to go? Let's find out. Oops, sorry. Let's find out what happens to that hole. So just do a few times round, nice and slowly. Stop there. That was three little pushes, but already, there's the hole. So two things have happened. It's moved from about there to about there, corresponding to the rotation I made of the whole piece. It's also elongated. It's stretched out a bit that way. Let's carry on. Stop there, that's 4 or 5 times, and there it is again. That's changed shape again, but more importantly it's moved again. So last time we looked at it, it was about there, and now it's here. Again, corresponding to the rotation of the whole thing that I've made. So it started out here, and it's already travelled all the way around to here. And it's not just the hole which has travelled, it's that little bit of clay. And if that little bit of clay has moved that far, then so has all the rest of the clay. It must have done. So this is what's going on. The clay is moving as I'm twisting it. Where's it going to go next? Let's find out. Yep. Don't want to lose it, but there it is now. It's just there. It's almost a little slit now. It's really elongated. So you can see how the clay is being spread out, stretched, as well as moving round. And you can see what's going to happen next. That hole, that bit of clay, will carry on going round, and it will move up here and go round, start going into the cone, and then we'll have lost it. We can't retrieve it after that. So what we can't do is see that little bit of clay come out again from the inside here. Once it's gone inside there, we've lost that little marker. But the clay itself will carry on going around the cone, go right to the centre, and then it'll come out again and carry on, and then it'll move round again. It'll move all the way around again. And so what we're seeing is that let's do this nice and slowly. Again, try and give you a different view of what's going on. If I move my hand out of the way, there we are. Stop again. What we're seeing is the clay is rotating throughout the whole piece. All the clay is rotating, and it's not only going into this cone here, it's coming out of the cone, as again, logically it must do, coming out of the cone again, onto the surface. It's touching this surface here eventually. So if that were an air bubble inside, it would eventually come out and it would pop. So here's another thing we can try. We can put some we could see how the clay is moving in a more detailed way. I think it's a bit of a guess. Let's try it. It's a hypothesis, but I want to see if it works. And if it does work, you'll see it. If it doesn't work, well, you still might see it, because it's always worth seeing negative results as well as positive ones. That is a lump of clay which it's half clay and half stain, black stain, and I've made this. There's a lot of it. It's about 500 grams here, 560 grams. I made that in order to stain a big load of porcelain, 12.5 kilos of porcelain, which is what I'm going to do with this eventually. I'm going to make this into black porcelain. But I thought I'd just take some of this clay here and put it inside this shape and then see where it goes, because hopefully the black will show up against the white, and we'll see what the clay is doing inside, because this is more or less the same consistency as this. It might be a good model of what's going on inside the spiral. Maybe this has been done before, but I haven't seen this. I haven't seen anyone do a video of this before, and I want to see what happens. So I'm jolly well making this video. So how am I going to do this? Let's go back to the beginning with this. Right, what I'm going to do is cut this in half. Is this a good angle? Let's stick with this angle for now and see how we go. I'll cut this in half lengthways, like that. Look, there is an air bubble in there. Look at that. Oops. There and there. Just so you can see, there and there. So I haven't kneaded it enough yet. Those would cause me problems. So let's not worry too much about that for now. I just want to put a piece of black clay in here. How am I going to do that? So I'm going to scoop out some clay right in the middle here. Like that. Okay. Waste not, want not. We'll put it back in there. And replace that hole, put it into that hole. Let's put an equivalent amount of this black stained porcelain. Something like that much. Got a little tool here I can help to get it in there. It's very sticky. So now I can put this back on top of here. Like that. Just seal it up. Right. Now, let's see what happens when we start spiral kneading with that little marker in there. So let's see what happens. I'll just do a few twists. Remember, let's do a little lesson while we're at it. You're going to lift it up a little bit, take that corner that's visible where your thumb starts over to that diagonal point, diagonally straight across down there, so that point there, touch that onto that with a little necessary twist. There we are. That's that. Lift it up, twist it a bit that way, and do the same again with this point on there. And do it again. So let's go round once. See, it's quite awkward when the bottom and the top meet up together. But about 20 times, maybe 22 times I think is round, all the way around once for me. There we are. Right, we've gone all the way round. I can't see the black anywhere. It hasn't come out yet. It's not obvious, but it's definitely still in there, so let's see what happened to it. Maybe cut it this way. Let's try this way to start with. Halfway through. Can't see any black on the wire. Let's open it up and see if we can see anything. Well, isn't that interesting? I can't see anything at all. So maybe I didn't go low enough. Where is it? Let's put this back on here. It can't possibly have disappeared already. Well, I say that, but I don't know. Let's try a different layer then, a bit higher up. Oops. If it has disappeared already, that's extraordinary. That just means that within one revolution we've mixed the clay so much, that little bit of that section of clay has been mixed so thoroughly into the rest of the clay that it's disappeared into the rest of the clay. Ah, there it is. Okay. Ah, look at that. Interesting. Here we go. So it's gone right to the bottom in this case. Very close to the bottom. It's very close to coming to the surface. Wow. All right. Well, let's carry on. So it's definitely elongated. That's the very important thing to see, is how much it's been stretched. It's moved a lot relative to the rest of the clay. It was right in the middle, remember, but more than that, it's been stretched out into this shape. Let's put that back exactly on top of itself. Well. Let's carry on. See what else happens. So let's go round once again then. Is it coming out? This hasn't come out yet. I think there's a bit there, so that must be the end of it. Just there, that's come out into the surface, so it's exposed itself. Carry on round. Right. So I can still see that bit that came out to onto the surface there. That's about to go back inside the cone. Where's the rest of it? Is that a bit? That's a bit just there on the bottom. So it could be that it's in a long line from that point all the way through. You've got to really sort of think three-dimensionally here. It's really freaky to think how this is working. So again, we might have a problem finding it, but let's do a little section like this. Oh look! Oh wow! Okay, this is fascinating. So yes, it's definitely here. I hope that's showing up on the camera actually. It's all around there. It's all around there. There's a line there. All around here, wiggling around. And correspondingly on this piece here, it's at the bottom here, and it's gone all around here. There's the wiggle. But I know I can see there's more still there, so that must mean, let's try another section. Just a thin section. Same again, same pattern again. So it's spread itself out around, basically around the edge of the shape, the edge of the tail. It's filled out this whole tail. So you remember how it was a solid lump, wasn't it? It was like this little hemispherical ball, and it's turned into this long string of clay. Now if you imagine that was just a random bit in the middle, all the clay, and sorry, if that's what's happened to the middle bit of this clay, then imagine, it's impossible to imagine what's happened to the rest of the clay, just in those two complete revolutions, only two, and I would expect to do many, many more than that, dozens more. So just from this tiny experiment we can see how much it's mixing the clay up by doing this spiral kneading. So it's a very effective way, not just of getting rid of air bubbles, exposing air bubbles, but also every time we go down, so we're finding it again and again. It's also a very effective way of mixing this clay up. I'd like to carry on, but I think it's just going to get more and more dilute now and harder to see. It's already quite grey, this long thin line, but I hope that's been enough to see what's happened. Let's just, while we're at it, let's try and do a section this way, vertical section. Oh look! Oh wow, that's fantastic. Look at that. It's doubled. Look, it's doubled. That's to do with the spiral going round and round. It's made a thin layer here. It's made a thin shell here. But these are three-dimensional shells. If you see what I mean, thin shells throughout this whole solid lump. Well, I wish I understood more about the maths of this. I would really love to see. So I keep taking it out of shot. I'm just so excited. How does anybody get so? Then there's the corresponding bit which we cut off to prove it, and this is nice because you can see both sides of this one. There's you can see the three-dimensional shell, which is what I'm talking about, because there's the edge of the shell there, and there's the edge of the shell there. If I twist it around, and we've got this second shell below it. So there would have been a corresponding one here. Let's do one more of those. There's the section. Let's do one more of those. So I must think I'm just a total nerdy freak. I just can't get over it though. Okay, now look at this. The complexity is fabulous. There's the long. You can see the shells, the thin shells, but also they're all wiggly. They're starting to really distort and go all over the place in very natural, beautiful ways. But I'm very pleased to see. Well, my hypothesis worked. I haven't talked about air bubbles yet and the original purpose of spiral kneading, but what we have seen very clearly is how much spiral kneading mixes the clay up. So if I carried on kneading this clay, those shells would increase. There'd be more and more of them. They get thinner and thinner, dispersed throughout the whole piece of clay, so to the point where you couldn't see them anymore because they'd be so fine. And at that point, you know that little original piece of very dense black clay is dispersed evenly throughout the whole clay. And if that's true of the little piece of black clay, it's true of the whole clay because they're all the same density. So in other words, all the clay is thoroughly mixed throughout the whole of this lump, however it started out, which is amazing to see. And that's a really graphical example, demonstration of that. Oh, I'm really pleased with myself that worked out. Let's do one more section. Just check. Yeah, it's all the way through. It's everywhere. It's thin shells throughout. Okay. And what was it? That was 2 turns.